Hi, this is Les Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. What a difference a year makes. A year or so ago, most people thought the Browns were the worst organization in sports, let alone football. And the best one in baseball? The Cleveland Indians, who have now won 3 consecutive division championships and have gone to the playoffs 4 out of the last 6 times. And as long as LeBron was here, Dan Gilbert was everybody's favorite owner. His championship in 2016 bought him a pass for a couple of years. Strangely enough, Paul Dolan lost his pass in the same year. Bud Shaw is here. More Sports and Les Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine, it's a Tuesday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les Levine into our 23rd consecutive year. And as always, seen exclusively on cleveland.com. Bud Shaw is here, and I missed you so much. You've been gone out of for the last week, and yet our audience sees you on Tuesday. They have no idea that you even left the studio, let alone the
I'm
state.
sure there wouldn't be a large outcrying if they did know that I wasn't around.
You don't think so?
No.
You look a little
Not
tan.
judging by my Twitter feed, anyway.
All right, let me guess. How'd you hit him?
I hit him pretty decently for this early in the season, but I putted like I had never seen a green before. So, what are you going to do?
But you were there, and, it was warm, good weather? And
absolutely perfect.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. You can email us during the show. That would be at reallesLevine@gmail.com. Bud Shaw, WKYC.com is with us. So you go away, and all that happens with the Indians is the infield blows up.
Yeah, I saw somebody, it may have been Jim Ingram, who said that they're going to go out with a starter at every position who wasn't a starter here last year, which is pretty amazing.
Last October.
Yeah, last October, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there are a couple of reasons for that, with injuries, but there's certainly a different time, and I think that's why we're seeing the ownership start to get in the crosshairs again with the fan base.
All right.
Did
you hear the quote?
Whether it's fair or not.
You heard the quote.
I did, yeah.
Basically, when asked about, and this was The Athletic, asked about what do you say to fans if you can't offer up a huge contract to Francisco Lindor, and Paul said, at least, I don't know that he said exactly, but paraphrasing, tell them enjoy him while you have him. Is that I don't think that's a horrible answer.
I don't think it's the best answer, given what else the Indians have done since last year, which is cut payroll considerably.
Right.
So I just think if there had been a little more, and I don't want to say he didn't think it through, but if he had given it a little more thought, he possibly would have thought, is this the message I want to send on the cusp of starting a new season, in which I still believe, I mean, what I would have probably said was, we're going to try our best to keep a guy like him. We want him badly.
Right.
And if we can't, then we're going to try to put the best team out on the field we can, and we think we've done that this year.
Right, you have an opening commentary. Why don't you go to that, and then we will continue our discussion with an opening commentary. Here is Bud Shaw.
Well, here's what I perceive the problem to be between the fans and Paul Dolan. It's not so much the chance of success as much less because of cost cutting. The Indians are favored to win their division for a 4th straight time, after all. And they're only 3 years removed from a World Series. The problem isn't that he's made big promises he isn't keeping either. The Dolans have run the team the same way for 2 decades. The problem is he's cutting salary now while concurrently saying he can't hope to keep Frankie Lindor in 3 years. That's trying to have it both ways, and doing so while the value of his franchise keeps rising. Not paying a player $400 million in this market isn't bad business when you think about it. Not giving your team its best chance to win while you have that player and angering the fan base on the beginning of a new season, that is bad business.
All right, I didn't actually hear the quote, so I don't know the tone that he used. I mean, I read
Yeah,
the
I think that's a fair
and
thing to bring up, because he has said things in the past like, hey, in our market, we can compete, and then we're going to have to pull back.
Right.
gather and compete again, and contend again, not compete.
You
contend.
only can contend for 2 years
and
at
I know
time.
people didn't want to hear it then,
Right.
and they don't want to hear it now, and they see, They see the franchise value go up from whatever it was when they bought it, $350 million.
Right, to over $1 billion.
And I think whether it was you or not, someone made the point that, well, you only get out of that, you only get your value out of that transaction when you sell it then.
Right.
But the fact is, they are not, when you look at it, that kind of an increase in value, it's hard to claim that you're losing money every year.
Well, people don't understand the cost as it happens, the day-to-day operations. All right, I'll tell you what I think Paul Dolan is guilty of, being too honest. Because he should have had somebody in the PR department craft something, because over the next 3 years he's going to be asked about this repeatedly. And also, I mean, so he should have been ready for it. On the other hand, everybody knows the answer. Why would anybody be surprised if he said what he said was, enjoy them while you have them. What he meant is, of course, we can't give him $400 million. Yeah, why would anybody be surprised?
Because what he's saying is, enjoy them while you have them, but we're not going to add to that enjoyment by keeping the same team together while he's here. We're going to cut that team and bring the salary cap down considerably. Give all these hitters away, all this position players away, and then we're telling you, but enjoy the good player that we're not going to be able to sign in 3 years. I just think it sounds to fans like, well, which is it? How can we enjoy him now when you've just cut payroll the way you have?
But I've asked everybody who's been here, and Jim Ingram was one of them, and Dennis Maniloff, and anybody else who's been here who has espoused basically the same thing you just did, and then I would finish it with, where do you think the Indians are going to finish this year? And the answer to a man was, well, they'll win the division. How do you argue?
Is that the standard? Should that be the standard for a team?
The standard should be win the World Series. Yeah. But you can't compete with New York. How come nobody's saying, you Yankees, you're not going to spend on Lindor? You're not going to.
We don't. Well,
why didn't you go after Machado? Why didn't you go after?
Certainly they haven't gone as crazy as they used to go. That's for sure.
Well, the numbers have changed.
But I just think, you were this close to a World Series in 2016. You continued to bring in talent in 2017-18. Now you have Ramirez and Lindor together for the next 2 years, and it sounds to me like you're looking to correct the payroll for the next 2 years, even though you're not going to be able to keep your star players when their contracts are up.
When the Indians signed, help me out here with the parrot. See how quickly they forget?
Encarnacion.
Yeah, of course, Edwin Encarnacion. When they signed him, 3 years, $20 million a year or so. I think there was $5 million tacked on somewhere else to make it 65. We thought that was an outrageous contract, and we applauded the Indians for doing that. And then, as you say, they corrected it 2 years after.
Yeah, I mean, I think when they made that deal, I remember we went to that press conference and we talked to Chris Antonetti at the time. I can't remember if Paul was there. And that was like, they posed that as a, hey, we're doing this in hope that the excitement and the revenues that it produces help us pay for this. It's not so much just going to the postseason is not going to pay for his salary, which is understandable. I mean, you get money out of the postseason, but you don't get that kind of money out of a $60 million over 3 years.
Right.
So I understand that there's some give and take between attendance in this town and production. And what they're going to be able to do salary-wise. I think the Machado contract, for instance, is a disaster for San Diego.
Correct.
I think in 3 years they're going to be saying what, because I don't think that market has the money to put talent around him to win. That's why I wouldn't blame them for not re-signing Lindor for the numbers that we're seeing. And that's 2 years from now, those numbers are going to be even higher. Yeah. It's probably going to be a $500 million deal.
But if it's $500 million.
But between now and then, you can't spend for another year or two?
I would think you could, and I would think it would be imperative that you did, because you've got to, just like I mentioned in my opening Truth and Reason, Dan Gilbert got himself a pass because he won, whether it was LeBron who did it or Kyrie Irving or whoever. That it was done under the auspices of the owner, Dan Gilbert. Now it appears that Dolan, who came pretty close in 2016 to winning it all, and everybody I talked to said that would have bought him the pass in future years. And yet, what are you telling me? Because the rain came up in the 10th inning and they got a bloop hit. That's the difference between being a good owner and a bad owner?
Yeah, I know. It seems like a flimsy measurement of ownership. I get it. And I do think that this ownership has been good for this town for Major League Baseball. I wrote a long time ago and had a discussion with the Dolan family after I wrote it because they weren't very happy, saying that they had the money to buy the team, they just don't have the money to operate the team. And they thought that was very unfair. And I think that was back when they didn't re-sign Ramirez. I can't remember exactly, Manny Ramirez, what exactly the situation was. But I mean, you're right, and when you say that the message from them has not changed the entire time that they've owned the club. Right. They don't have, they're not going to deficit spend, just like, and I know people hate when I mention this, Dick Jacobs never deficit spent. He took what was there, he knocked it down. When I moved into town in '91, his payroll was down to about $8 million a year, and he started building it back up. And fortunately, the new ballpark came and the attendance went crazy for a 5-year period. But he was not going to, believe me, if he was in the same situation the Dolans were in, he wouldn't do anything differently than what they're doing right now. And we don't know about, well, all these comparisons between Cavs and Indians on social media right now, I just don't even find it interesting enough to join in because it's such apples and oranges.
I got a phone call the other night, somebody complaining about the Dolans and saying how they let Albert Bell go. Well, they didn't let Albert Bell go. That was still while Dick Jacobs owned the team.
Absolutely.
So what happens is over the years they start getting blamed for things that, if you're me, how do you stop that argument that they didn't, that it all started with Albert Bell when clearly it didn't?
No, it didn't, and that was back when they were drawing $3 million a year.
Yeah, every night.
And top in attendance. I don't think you can go very long being top 15 in pay if you're in the were they around 15 or 16 in payroll last year or 17? I'm not sure what it was, and still lag at 22, 23, 24 in attendance. You can't do it very long, but my point would be if you only have Lindor, and I think they'll trade Lindor before he walks. So if you only have him for another year or two,
really only have him for 2.
Let's, why not keep the payroll about where it was last year in a town where the excitement is starting to head in another direction with the football team.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Paul Dolan and the fans is what we just talked about. We'll talk about this year's Cleveland Indians team, the 2019 team that'll get underway in Minnesota on Thursday. In the meantime, you want to look back to another era? Scott Longert has written another book, and it's a terrific one. It's available on Amazon.com, and you can visit ScottLongert.com for book signings. It's called Bad Boys and Bad Times. It's about the Cleveland Indians. About 1937 to 1941, they were the crybabies. They got their manager fired. They had Raleigh Hemsley as their catcher. He was an alcoholic, among other things. Bob Feller, of course, with his incredible high school career, turning it into a professional career with the Indians at League Park, and much, much more. A lot of people don't remember this era and a couple of other eras that Scott has written about. Check it out, ScottLongert.com, for upcoming book signings. And, of course, this one, Bad Boys and Bad Times, the story of the Indians 1937 to 1941. We'll come back in a moment with Bud Shaw. More sports and less Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
Birthdays for today, which is the 26th of March, Wayne Embry. What a great guy he is. Played, born in Springfield, Ohio, played for the Cincinnati Royals mostly. He's been a great executive over the years. And I had a great discussion with him about, well, about a lot of things with the Cincinnati Royals. But Maurice Stokes, everybody's familiar with that story, and he was on that team. Carlotta Schertz, I had to take him to the cleaners the other day, born in 1947. Marcus Allen, John Stockton, and Jose Vizcaíno, former Indian, and Von Miller, born in 1989, all on the 26th of March. 216-575-0403. All right, so I'll ask you, despite what you just said and what I said, where do the Indians finish this year?
Yeah, I will pick them to win the division by 10 games.
Well,
first of all, I'm not the one that's incensed by what Paul Dolan said. I just think that he shouldn't say. I mean, this is to me why fans are upset, because he's cutting costs. He's gotten swept. His team has gotten swept out of the last playoff series.
Right.
They blew a lead in the previous playoff series. They blew a lead in the World Series.
Correct.
And people are looking and saying, why pull back now?
Okay,
you know,
but if you're him, you're sitting in his office, and they bring you stuff like paper, telling you all the analytical projections and everything else, and they tell them what you just said, that they're going to win the division by 10 games, as with David Miller or whoever he is at second base, and Max Moroff, and you know the rest of the All-Star squad.
I think it's Brad Miller.
Brad Miller.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
David Miller's brother. Brad.
Well, even so. I mean,
to start, we know it's going to be Kipnis and Lindor and Ramirez.
Yes, and we know that
Santana.
by the All-Star game or by the trading deadline. Well, here you have it right now. You got infielders and catchers. You got Lindor and Kipnis and Hanley Ramirez and Brad Miller, Roberto Perez. We had in our projected starting lineup Roberto Perez batting 7th. Now, how good can that team be? Jose Ramirez, Carlos Santana, Eric Stamets at shortstop, Moroff at second, and Plawecki is your catcher. So let me ask you this: as you see the rest of the team, that includes Greg Allen, the switch-hitting center fielder, Leonis Martin, Jordan Luplow, Carlos Gonzalez, Jake Bowers, Tyler Naquin, and Bradley Zimmer. Here's our projected opening day lineup. And I got to tell you this. If Santana, well, I think Santana will have a good year, but if Carlos Gonzalez and Hanley Ramirez, if they have the year they're hoping for, all of a sudden that lineup, when you get Lindor back and Kipnis back, it's not as bad as it looked a week ago.
Well, what leads you to believe that you're going to get that out of Ramirez and Gonzalez? That's the thing. Nothing they did over last season.
There's nothing they did over the last season or two that would make you believe that.
Yeah. So, yeah, listen, I suspect they'll win the division. I mean, I think the idea is to win a World Series here while you still have Frankie Lindor and Jose Ramirez together.
Right,
and have you helped yourself do that? Have you positioned yourself to win a World Series based on what you've done in the offseason? And I would say the answer would have to be no. It doesn't mean they can't do it. We saw how far they went in 2016 with all the injuries they had.
Right.
But you're asking for pretty special circumstances again for this team to make it to a World Series. Is
pitching still the name of the game or not?
It was in 2016 and 17 and 18.
Well, you had injuries. You had a bad back by Kluber. You had a drone injury. You know, the dreaded drone injury by Bowers.
But I mean, I think one of the biggest, you could say this. I think one of the biggest issues has been Jose Ramirez in the postseason.
Yes.
Last year, at least.
Sure. And the last month of the season.
So if you get great pitching and great performances from your two stars,
then you're right there.
Maybe you're right there. Maybe you are.
Do we agree we can't compete with the Yankees dollar-wise and the Red Sox dollar-wise?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But now based on what you've done, I think nothing is impossible, but you've now hurt your chances to compete with them in the playoffs.
By what you lost and what you have not picked up.
Yes. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, I would agree. But there's the other side of the little angel on my shoulder that says you've been handed the analytical report that you're going to win by 10 games. You're going to win by 10 games, and you're going to save yourself outlay of, I don't know, $50 million.
Yeah, but you were favored to win the division last year. Would you agree?
Yes.
You didn't move Encarnacion then. You didn't. No. You signed Alonso then. You signed Donaldson then, and now you're looking and saying, well, we're still favored, and we're not signing anybody.
Okay, so let's forget this year for a minute. You just said Donaldson and a couple of other, and the year
Brad Hand.
And in 16 you had Miller, and you had a couple of other additions. They certainly weren't cheap then. They certainly went for the gusto at that point. And just because you don't get it doesn't mean you didn't try.
I guess fans are skeptical that, given what we've seen in the offseason with salary cutting, that they will make those same moves at the trade deadline if they're available.
I believe they will.
Okay.
Here's
well, you know what you're going to be called?
Them.
You're going to be called an Indians apologist by the first phone call
Bring it on.
or email or tweet that we get.
Go ask the PR department if they think I'm an apologist for the Indians. But what I will tell you is this, that what I have found out about the Dolans is, we say the Dolans and we mean Paul Dolan. What I found out about Paul Dolan, when he says we will spend when the time is right, he believes the time is right is not now, it's when you're ahead, and then you, to quote Austin Carr, you throw the hammer down. He doesn't believe that, we're 4 games out, we better throw the hammer down. It's when you're 4 games ahead. Do you agree with that?
You're counting on them being comfortably ahead by the All-Star, by the trade deadline.
I would like him not only to be comfortably ahead in the division, which we all agree is not good, although Minnesota looks like they are much better.
Minnesota has a better lineup than these guys.
No question about it.
Agree on that?
Yes, but I don't know that I'd want any of their pitchers in our starting rotation. I believe that not only should they try to win the division, but try to win it big enough that they have the home field advantage in the postseason. And people who want to tell me it doesn't matter, they're wrong. They don't know anything about the game.
Well, if you espouse doing that, then you're winning it big enough to get home field advantage just became more difficult by what you didn't do this offseason.
That's correct. Or you better do it when you get closer.
By what you didn't keep together, I should say.
That's correct. But but you have the opportunity to add to that when you get into June and July. 216-575-0403. When we come back, we got a Facebook question of the day. A lot of people responded to that. You can probably guess what it is, but we'll officially tell you what it is when we get back. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. You can enjoy the excitement of live harness racing, and that's Monday through Wednesday as well as Saturday evenings with the 6 p.m. post time. Open every day for simulcast action from the top thoroughbred and harness tracks from all over the world. Enjoy the free handicapping contests all weekend long, including the popular Road to the Derby contest on Saturdays and the weekly Sunday contest featuring Gulfstream Park. It's free admission, free parking every day. That's at Northfield Park. Bud Shaw and I return in a moment. More sports and less Levine comes your way exclusively on cleveland.com.
Your basement is damp, dirty, and not somewhere you want to spend time. Let Nature Stone Flooring transform your basement into a true extension of your home. Nature Stone's proprietary hydrostatic ports allow water to simply evaporate, so no mold or mildew. Nature Stone is the affordable basement floor solution that beautifies your home.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
But time for a How Come Quickie. How come they're called apartments even though they may be connected?
That sounds like one of yours.
Yeah.
Was it yours?
A couple years ago, I think. Yeah.
I didn't mean it had been used before.
It got regifted.
I meant it was so clever it had to be you.
Well, listen, doing this 23 years, it's not possible to have new ones every night, right?
That's absolutely
Even
true.
the best ones that are sent in have its base somewhere in the haven't I heard that one before? And listen, we're getting new audience every day who say, what the heck is a quickie?
There you go, yeah. So you need to repeat some
All
of
right,
this
you've
stuff.
got a report from the Cleveland Police involving
well, it says
former
that
Cleveland Browns
Channel
player.
5's, I think it's called Five on Your Side investigators. It was there's a tweet saying that the NFL has requested information from Cleveland Police regarding those incident that Jabril Peppers was involved in before he was traded. The police then clarified by tweeting that he is not a suspect in any of these investigations. They thought that the Five on Your Side tweet was a little misleading.
All right, but did they in fact request information or not?
That's
they're
the
not
report.
denying that.
The police are not denying that part.
Right,
they're
not denying that, and
they're just saying he's not a suspect.
Okay, very good. More to follow, I would assume. 216-575-0403. We always turn our attention to Las Vegas to see what they think at a moment like this, and the AL Central odds. There you see it. Even Las Vegas, Bud, thinks 2-9 is huge. That's like almost an automatic. Minnesota at 27-10, less than 3-1. Chicago at 25-1. Detroit 45-1. And Kansas City, which won a World Series not too long ago, at 50-1. Well, that's a question to ask. If you win the World Series, is it okay to be at the bottom for the next 5 years?
Yep.
It is. You know
How
what,
long you been waiting for a World Series win?
I strongly agree with you both ways. Here's the National League or the World Series odds. The Yankees at 6-1, Boston and Houston 7-1, the Cubs and Dodgers at 8-1, and the Indians at 12-1. The fourth best team in the American League according to Las Vegas.
You know, if you've got the 6 best odds, whatever those are worth,
right,
to win a World Series. So that's why I'm reluctant to, suddenly, pull out a hammer and start banging on the Dolan ownership.
Because all that means is they're going to win the division.
I'm saying they've been a successful team. If everything goes right this year, they're positioned to where they could win it all.
Right.
Nobody would say that they couldn't win it all, right?
Right.
But but they didn't. They had more talent last year, and decided to roll that back. And now they're a less talented team that happens to be the cream of a bad division.
Okay, so here's what's happening to me. Being in love with the game of baseball for 100 years, almost. Close to 100 years. Closer to 100 than to 50.
All right.
I think.
No,
that's not true
really.
either.
No, that's
not. I'm never good at math. So I've always believed that pitching is the name of the game. And yet, it's clear to me that although Houston had a great pitching staff last year, but to me the Indians had a better pitching staff if everybody's healthy. But what's proven to me in the last couple of years is that may not be the case anymore. It may be that maybe not just hitting the ball, but hitting the ball with the right launch angle and all that other stuff that they're throwing down our throats these days. Maybe pitching is not the name of the game anymore because the Indians with the best pitching haven't won.
I think there is more to it now. We heard Trevor Bauer and to some lesser extent Mike Clevenger, not complain, but point out that they thought the Astros were way beyond everybody else in baseball in the way they analyzed the game.
Yeah, like cheating.
Well, not just that, but with all kinds of stuff that they're doing to monitor and measure and learn from launch angles, spin rates, all this stuff. So there is more to it than just you used to be able to throw out the best
and just say pitchers
on the mound. Then there was, and they were facing, a pitcher in the opposing lineup. And in the American League, obviously, you don't do that with the DH. I mean, you do have to be able to hit your way out of the American League, I think, to some extent, to get to the World Series.
All right, so we have a Facebook question of the day. We asked you, what is your Indians prediction for 2019? Let's take a look at some of the results from that. Lawrence C. Butler comes up with more of the same, not competitive with the big boys.
Oh, what does he know?
I'll tell him that when I see him.
Tell him I said that. Okay.
I will.
He's a friend.
He is. Well, yeah. Gregory Mees, 91 wins and another World Series appearance. At that point, it's anybody's game. Well, I just debunked that theory, I guess. We then have Rick May. We have enough pitching to win the division, but not much after that. With our key hitters injured and traditional slow starts during April, I wouldn't be surprised if we started May with a losing record. 86 wins and a division playoff loss. Doug, can't pronounce the last name. Great starting pitching, rejuvenated bullpen, healthy players in the infield. The kids come through in the outfield. World Series victory over the Dodgers in 7, just once in my lifetime. Carl St. John, Dolan bumps the payroll to 150 mil. That's in July. Fans still hate him.
Well, I don't think either of those are true. I don't think he'll bump it to 150.
And you don't think they hate him?
But if he does, I think fans will leave him alone. You know, this whole notion. I don't know how you feel about it, about the, judging the owners. And was Dan Gilbert a great owner because he spent, or was he a great owner because, or a good owner because LeBron fell in his lap twice? Yeah. I just think it's a different sport. When you have a generational talent like LeBron, you didn't just have a good player in LeBron. You had a generational talent in a sport where you could hand him the ball at every possession. And you certainly can't do that in baseball. I mean, it goes without saying. It's so obvious. And so to hold the Dolans to the same measure and say they're failing as owners because they're not willing to spend $450 million on Frankie Lindor, I just think is an unfair comparison.
Why is Kyrie Irving avoiding playing Cleveland in Cleveland?
Oh, Kyrie. Yeah.
Jeff Thomas in 92.3 The Fan calls him Kyrie.
Well, I mean, he's an oddball. He's been an oddball the whole time he was here. And, this just smacks of a guy that doesn't want to get booed here.
Let's go to Lee, who's standing by in Newton Falls this evening. Hello, Lee. How are you?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, Lee.
First, one minor complaint before I get started on the Indians.
You're in the right place.
I went out and I got myself a 75-inch high-resolution TV so I could keep track of the good hair and bad hair days.
How you doing?
And you went out and put I'm on my little 2-inch screen on my computer. How can I keep track?
I must fess up. I did get a haircut today, and if it's not good today, it'll never be good.
I can't tell.
Six more payments. It's mine.
On the Indians.
Yeah.
I don't blame the Dolans for trying to operate the business financially sound. The only thing I would say about it is that they need to have a pipeline of talent coming up from Akron, Columbus, and whatnot.
Which they apparently don't have.
When they don't have, yes.
However, Lee, they did trade 2 of their best, though, a couple of years ago, Justice and
the catcher.
No, the outfielder.
Well, they traded the catcher. Yeah, they traded the catcher to get Brad Hand.
Oh, yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
Mejia
and for Hand.
Right, and Clint Frazier's the one I was thinking
Clint Frazier.
Clint Frazier, yeah, the red-headed guy.
Right.
Who hasn't been a great player for them.
Correct.
Although he's he's had some issues. So.
Well, yeah, they made him shave his beard, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, that's it then. When this Stamets or whatever his name is the best they can bring up, I mean, we're in trouble there.
He's the best utility infielder that they could bring up at this moment.
Well, just because he hit a grand slam last night doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be as concerned about the injuries in the beginning of the season because I think some of this stuff is precautionary. They seem to do this every year when they know there's going to be cold weather to start a season.
Yeah, but I'd like to see them get off to a semi-decent start.
With Lindor, I think he can't. Was it Lindor? No, it was Michael Brantley last year. I think played in like the 6th or 7th. Was it 6 games into the season? Yeah, they opened the season on the road, and he came in the 6th game. So I think maybe they're just trying to bide a little more time. That old edict that if somebody's ready, they really should take 2 more weeks off and be really ready when they come back. So I'm not worried about that part of it for the Indians. But I do wonder if that's a roster or a lineup that's going to stand the test of time all summer. The pitching's going to have to be really good for it to work.
Lee, how many games do you think they win?
I'm looking at maybe 86, 87. it's going to be more of a struggle this year than it has been the last three.
Why? Because of the lineup?
Well, Minnesota's a lot better, and plus, like I've said this before, that the starters have to go out and pitch 7 shutout innings.
Well, it's a little hard to ask.
Every time.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about that much, Lee. That's a good point. The bullpen wasn't great last year, and many of those same guys are back.
They added nobody new. Every pitcher on the relief staff pitched for the Indians last year. So there's no overhaul on that bullpen. All right, Lee, we got to go. Thanks for tuning in, as always. We appreciate it. 216-575-0403. We mentioned Jabril Peppers, who is no longer with the Browns. Browns looking at some safeties. There's some, they've got some commonality between some of the people in the front office and some of the players who might be available. We'll check that out when we get back. More Sports and Less Living continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes the dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
It takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling to bring the heat when things get chilly. Find us at 440-449-HEAT.
All right, here you have it. This is a big day in sports history. March 26, 1979, Michigan State with Magic Johnson beats Indiana State with Larry Bird 75-64. They win the NCAA tournament. Magic had 24 for the Spartans, and Larry Bird scores 19 for Indiana State. But when you think about it, there are certain dates, certain events, certain whatever they are, monumental moments in sports. Would you agree that was one of them?
That was definitely
even though the
one of
game
them.
was not good?
Yeah, that was definitely one of them. I later went to, I'm trying to remember who I was working for at the time, I think Atlanta, but I later went to French Lick to do a story on the Bird,
right,
the Bird family at the time, and that's an amazing little town, and he was the king.
He was the king.
He was something else. You know, he got. He didn't get a lot of acclaim for being the best trash talker in the NBA, but he certainly was that.
Yeah, my first job in radio was in Jasper, Indiana, which was about 20 minutes away from there. I did a game when he was a sophomore.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I'd like to say I knew immediately, but I think he had 11 points and got in foul trouble, I believe. Don't have much recollection.
Yeah, that's why you and I do what we do now. We're not scouts, right?
Right.
Because the first newspaper job I had in Western Pennsylvania, there was a little high school there. With a really big quarterback named Jim Kelly, who
you didn't see much.
Who I said, yeah, he's all right. He'll be okay. Penn State wanted him to play linebacker. Miami wanted him to.
I think he'll go on to lose 4 Super Bowls
yeah.
in a row. To win some Super Bowls, you have to have some good safeties. The Browns lose one in Jabril Peppers. Now apparently they are looking to see what is available. Safeties on the roster right now: Demarius Randall, Derek Kindred, Jermaine Whitehead, and we all know this guy, Tiggy Sanko. Now, I got to tell you something, bud. You know, I go in before the show, and We check out spellings and grammar and all that. I have no idea if that guy's name is right or not.
You know, if you watch the Colbert Report, Les, he throws up all those pictures of the Democratic candidates who declared to run for president,
Right.
and he always puts like one person in that doesn't belong,
phony?
like Keith Richards or something like that, and he dares people to be able to.
So you don't think Tiggy
No,
Senko
I
is
think
really
he's
on
the
this
Keith
team?
Richards of this list.
All right. However, there are some names you may recognize, and one is Eric Berry, who, of course, has only played 3 games in the last 2 years. 30 years old, 9 NFL seasons, 5-time Pro Bowler, and, of course, he only played 3 games, as I say, in the last 2 seasons, and he's had 448 tackles in his career, 14 interceptions, and, of course, Kansas City means John Dorsey can't be too far behind. Then we continue on. Trey Boston, 26 years old, and it's a free agent option, 79 tackles, 3 interceptions, and defended 9 passes defended in 2018, and 27 passes defended in his career. Any of those names intrigue you in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what their timetable is on this, whether they feel comfortable wait until the draft, but I would suspect not. I would think that one of those 2 guys will get signed.
In fact, this has kind of been a lull period in not just Cleveland sports, but any sports. But the Indians open at home next Monday, same time the Browns are allowed to practice out in Berea because they have a new coach and new coaching staff.
Right, and we're led to believe that Odell Beckham Jr. will attempt to or will attend the first group gathering on April 1st.
Should we be concerned in any way when they say that Freddie Kitchens said he's trying his best to get to the
I heard
team
that
on
quote
time?
and I listened to that part of the interview, and I think what he's saying is understandable, that the guy had a bunch of off-season things planned, I'm sure, and he was in Europe, for instance, when they made the deal.
He was supposed to report on the 14th if he stayed with the Giants.
Right, so maybe there's a 2-week period there that he wasn't planning on being, but I think they've probably made it pretty clear to him that it's important for them and for him to walk in there with everybody else on April 1st.
All right, and if he comes in on Monday, I will gladly, on Thursday, take him to Sokolowski's University, and I will personally escort him to show him
He may
why
never leave if you do that.
I'll show him exactly why he should be here on time. Sokolowski's University Inn, located in Tremont, established in 1923, the winner of the James Beard Foundation Award. You all know how important that is. Only 5 in the country get it each and every year. To everybody's knowledge that I know, Sokolowski's University Inn, the only one to get it from the city of Cleveland or the Cleveland, Northeast Ohio area. Cleveland's oldest family-owned and operated restaurant. It's Mike and Bernie Sokolowski's University Inn, open 11 to 3, Monday through Friday for lunch and Friday and Saturday for dinner. Bud Shaw and I return in a moment. We'll come back to you exclusively on cleveland.com.
The concrete in your garage is uneven, cracked, pitted, and just plain ugly. Transform your garage into a welcoming entryway with Nature Stone flooring. Reduce tracked-in dirt, eliminate puddling and salt damage. Plus, Nature Stone corrects uneven concrete so you don't have to worry about tripping or slipping.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Perception is not always reality. All right, so I'm anxious to get Odell there get to know him as a person. Everything, his teammates love him. And just let him kind of, assimilate into the team and get going. I mean, he's no different than anybody else. He's a person, all right? He's a human being. He has feelings. He's not some cartoon character that is just kind of pops up from the media, per se. So he's got feelings. He's got interactions. 2 weeks ago, his life was turned upside down. He didn't know he was getting traded. So I think we he had to take some time to see what life is going to be like now post New York. I love Cleveland, and he's going to love Cleveland, all right? Because him and Cleveland, they both have tremendous passion, and he has passion for the game, and so I don't see why it wouldn't fit.
There you have it, Freddie Kitchens talking about Odell Beckham. There's a part of me that says, look, he's not the first guy that ever got traded. Everybody's life gets upside down if you're traded. On the other hand, as you mentioned, it's getting traded and he has to be there 2 weeks before he thought he would. He may have plans, and maybe that's part of it. I just wonder if people are going to be concerned if he does not show up on the 1st of April.
Well, I think he sent out, we all read tea leaves now on social media, and he sent out something originally saying he was going dark. He was going, he has since come back and I said what, he's feeling dangerous. So yeah, I don't know how much stock.
Is it going to be this way all year long?
I think it is, yes.
Necessarily,
I don't know how much stock to put into all that, but I suspect that, like any of us who get upended and have to start over with another company or another team, that he would want to show his best side immediately. So I would think it would be a good thing for him to be here, and I think he probably would be.
Any thoughts in the last 2 weeks, now that the initial shockwave is gone, that he's here, that they made that big trade? Do you feel any different about it than you did maybe 2 weeks ago?
No, I think the more you think about it, the more you see the upside of it. I think Kitchens is a part of that too. I think he presents himself in a way that there's not going to be any hidden agendas. There's not going to be the kind of drama that was in that building around Todd Haley and Hugh Jackson, and Freddie saw that up close because he was, as we know from Hard Knocks, he was part of the original questioning of Hugh Jackson and how tough he was making, or not tough he was making, training camp on these players.
Correct me if I'm wrong. When you look at that video and he's saying, I love Cleveland and you'll love it too, Odell, do you get the feeling that it's not put on that he can get along with Baker Mayfield with that personality and also with Odell Beckham?
Yeah.
I mean, two diverse.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard a story from somebody that I know was there, and during halftime of that Houston game, I think if I'm correct, Baker had 3 interceptions or something in the first half of that game, or certainly had played his worst half of the season. And Kitchens basically said to him, you're on national TV and you're embarrassing yourself. And not in those exact words, because I can't use the exact words that he said. And Mayfield responded by saying, I know, and I'm going to fix it. So he has confronted, not that that was a big confrontation, I don't mean that, but he's not afraid to talk to these guys and tell them what he expects and what he sees. And I think players appreciate that. Sometimes they're told, if it's done in the right way, sometimes they're told things they don't want to hear, but if it's done in the right way and they think the person telling them that isn't doing stuff behind their back and saying different things once they leave the room, then I think they can respect that. And I would suspect, I don't know Beckham at all, but maybe this will be a better market for him to be in. He doesn't feel
not all
like,
the noise.
Yeah, not all the noise that is in New York. And we saw that with Terry Francona in Boston. I mean, he's been really thankful that he made that move.
Are you concerned that Freddie Kitchens is one of the big questions about this team? The fact it might have been the right choice, but he also has never coached ahead. He's never been a head coach for a game. Doesn't have any wins or losses on his resume as far as that is concerned. Do you say it's one of the big question marks?
I think it's a concern because we haven't seen him do it in that role. But I think that concern is mitigated by the fact that whether it was Dorsey's idea and Freddie signed off on it, or it was Freddie's idea, that they brought in an experienced offensive coordinator and an experienced defensive coordinator.
Who was the head coach at one time.
Yeah, and I think that should help him.
216-575-0403 if you want to get in for the last segment. You're certainly invited to do that. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing Sunday through Wednesday as well as Saturday. Live racing, you can catch the excitement of all of that with the 6 p.m. post time. Open early every day, at least at noon, for the live simulcast action from the top thoroughbred and harness tracks all around the world. Free admission, free parking every day. That's at Northfield Park. We're coming back one more time. Bud's favorite, this date in Les Levine history, comes your way when we get back. More sports in Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
When my dad started Nature Stone right here in Northeast Ohio, he created a solution for age-old concrete problems: unevenness, cracking, pitting, and more. Nature Stone solves all of these problems in garages, basements, and outdoor spaces. Nature Stone is beautiful, environmentally friendly, and always affordable. Nature Stone is backed by Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
All right, you got the voicemail of Truth and Reason. You can call anytime and leave a voicemail for us, and we'll play the best messages for you. That's at 216-200-6650, 216-200-6650. Our number. Well, we got Facebook also. Follow us on Facebook, More Sports and Les Levine, with new content posted each and every day. But the owners' meeting is going on, but here's this date in Les Levine history. As captain of the safety patrol at Roland School, Les suggests a wall goes between South Euclid and Lyndhurst, and he believed at the time that both sides would be happy to pay for it.
I love that haircut. That's all I can say. I can never get beyond the haircut. I can't read
Doesn't
any of
matter
the
what
words.
I say.
No.
All right, the owners' meeting going on. You got a quote from Dee Haslam, and I got one. You start.
Well, I guess she met with reporters, as did Jimmy, and she was asked about the stadium and the long-term plans for it. And she said that they are going to stay where they are. They're going to make improvements to it. And the one thing she thought that needed to be done was a walkway from downtown to the stadium. And
I wonder, covered?
I don't know. I wouldn't think covered, but certainly, I spent the season, walking it. I would park at Channel 3, which is on Lakeside, and I would walk down and back and forth. And it's a very congested area. You have to cross a bunch of streets to do it, with cars going in every different direction. It takes a lot of, and believe me, not that you wouldn't need police there for traffic control or anything, but it is, it seemed a little unsafe at times, that whole situation of people pouring down East 9th and cutting across. If they could somehow figure a way to do that, it would be, it would really help.
Could use a walkway. I'm not sure. I'd have to see where they would plan it.
Yeah.
What Dee also said is that in the year 2020, which is next season, the Browns will have new uniforms. And she said, this time I think we got it right, which is a direct shot at Alex Shiner, I would believe. Right?
What was that? Pantone C, whatever that number was.
But
yeah,
I hope they go back to the old ones.
And maybe they will.
1964 ones.
You got a head coach who's now walking around with Brownie the elf hat.
Yeah.
And not that he'll have a big vote in it, but maybe other people in the building feel the same way about the tradition.
Let's go to Chagrin Falls. We'll say hi to Bob. Bob, good evening. Go ahead.
Hi guys, how are you?
Okay,
good.
How you doing?
I'm hanging in. Listen, things are not bad with
the
Indians.
Bob, you got to turn your radio.
I remember the 70s and the 80s. when I thank God that I could play golf from June 15th on and bury myself in golf and forget about the Indians, because they'd be well out of it by then.
All right, do me a favor. Turn your radio down or the internet.
With regard to Dolan, I think people don't really understand how it is to run a business. His revenue is limited. I'd be interested to see what the big market teams, the large market teams, have in TV revenue versus ours. I would suspect it's quite
well, it's
different.
It's the reason the Angels have been able to sign Trout for what they did, and certainly some of the other teams. Hey, Bob, you got to turn that down in the background, that noise in the background.
Well, I know how to turn the damn thing off. I'll walk somewhere. I'll walk away from it. I'm sorry. At any rate, what I want to say was...
Well, hold on. The answer to your question is they're near the bottom.
Or anybody who succeeds him is going to outspend his revenue. It's dumb because he won't be around that much longer. You can't outspend the revenue in any business, and the revenue is fixed. He did, and as far as this ownership is concerned, they put in the corner to try to attract the millennials, and they did a good job of that. I mean, you and I don't agree. Don't want to go out there and sit and stand there.
No, I'm there to see a baseball
look at
game.
our phones all day.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes to bring people in the ballpark today. I think they're doing a bang-up job, and I don't think they get enough credit for it. They're trying to be not frugal, but wise in how they allocate their assets.
Right.
Granted, they're going to make a bundle of money when they sell it, but that doesn't help them in operating capital.
Right. Well, some people would say they should sell it then.
Look at that.
All right, Bob, thank you so much. All right, so what he's basically saying is the operating revenue, they're not going to be able to make enough money to overcome the operating revenue. However, if and when they sell it, they make tons and tons and tons of money.
Yeah, I guess the question is, would another buyer step into this market and pay $1 billion for a baseball team? I don't know.
I don't know.
Those numbers are way beyond my capacity to understand.
No, but it's a legitimate question because you want a lot of people who say they want a new owner. The new owner would have a worse time controlling the spending because of what you just said. Paul Dolan rather, bought it for $326 million, let's say, and it's worth over $1 billion. Well, the person who pays the $1 billion isn't working from the $326 million start.
Remember the old shows that Jeff Sindelar used to do about memorabilia, and somebody would call and tell him what they had, and he'd say, that's a good item, that's worth $350. And I would always think, only if somebody's willing to pay it.
Yeah, and you can't go to where Jeff was, and Jeff was a terrific guy, but you can't go to him and say, where's my $350?
Yeah.
I always said that about when the kids started collecting baseball cards. Here's a card, it's worth $25. Well, not if we're in a room here and nobody is a collector and understands that it's $25. Yeah.
It's not as simple. I can understand people being upset with the payroll cuts this year. It's not as simple as saying you should be able to sign Frankie Lindor because your value of your franchise has increased.
And by the way, who would then play second base and right field and pitch and whatever. Any final comment for you?
No, I'm really kind of interested in seeing what happens on Monday. Not that I think the Indians might not, get everybody excited, but I just wonder if this narrative will die off if they get off to a great start and start winning a bunch of games. They don't usually, so maybe it won't go away.
I have one suggestion for the PR department. Don't wear the usual opening day uniform with the cream color without names on the back. Please put names on the back of the uniforms. Good suggestion?
Yeah, I think you've made it before and they've ignored you. So
yeah, they have. Well, this year they have more new guys. All right, that'll do it for us. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks to Bud Shaw. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.